What's up, guys? What's going on? I'm Paul. This is Pauline Theology's daily devotional, and we are going through the book of Exodus. We are in Exodus chapter 6, verse 27 and 28. Exodus chapter 6, verse 27 and 28. And we're in Exodus studying Moses, and we are about to get to the jumping off part, man. We're going to go, we talked about last episode how we were going through the genealogy of Moses and his credentials that showed how he was able to be who he was. And then also we just talked a little bit about just because we have those credentials doesn't mean that's what God has called us to be. And so we're going to see a little bit more of that here as we go through. So if you haven't read it yet, go ahead and stop the tape, check it out, see what I say, come back, and we're going to answer some questions. If you've read it, man, let's not wait any further, man. Let's not delay more of the reading of the scripture, man. Let's get into it. So what we got here is what's going on. That's the first question. And what we got here is a reiteration of the events that have passed. So since we broke off a little bit from the narrative into the genealogy to show the credentials of Moses, and now we're about to get back into the story. And so for that, we get like a little short recap. And we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to break the recap down. And the first part of the recap that we get to is that it says, these are those guys that God spoke to tell the people to, or tell Pharaoh to let his people go, right? He's like, these are the guys. And then it says, and the Lord spoke to Moses. The Lord spoke to Moses in the land of Egypt. And so what does this say about God? I think what this tells us is that God speaks. He still does. God speaks, and he still does today, right? He speaks to us in a way that we can hear him. And that way right now, I want to make absolutely clear, is through his scripture. But he also speaks through his spirit. And so we've got to be able to read his word, which is his primary way of speaking to us, but also listen to the spirit. And I do a little more detail on that in discipleship curriculum if you want to check that out. Or you can check out ways to stay connected, to maintain your relationship with Christ. And I go through that a little bit. But that's an important part of our relationship, is listening to God and then knowing how he speaks to us. Because God speaks. He speaks. And he's calling Moses to do something. He's calling Moses to do an amazing thing, actually, to release the people. And he gets to be a part of something special. But make no mistake, just because it doesn't seem as amazing or as astonishing as what Moses is about to do when he does all of these, or God does all of these wonders through his hand, doesn't mean that what we are doing or what God has called us to is not equally as important, because he has given us a task. And if God has given us this task, it's a task that we should be accomplishing. So God still speaks today. What does this say about us? It says that we need to be listening. We need to be listening. Because whether or not it is the wonderful, amazing thing that you think it should be, if God spoke it to you, you got to do it. You need to do it. We're going to see in a couple of verses where it says that Moses and Aaron do all that the Lord had called them to do. But that is what we need to do. We need to step up to the plate. We need to get on deck. We need to be ready. Because when God speaks, we listen and carry it out. So how do we apply these truths to our lives? I think we got to recognize that God still speaks. We need to be listening. That means, how do we get ourselves more accustomed to hearing the words of the Lord? How do we understand what he's saying? Well, it's putting ourselves in the scripture. And if you're here doing that, man, then that's what we're doing right now. And you're preparing yourself. You're getting yourself ready, making yourself ready to hear God as he speaks. But it's not just about speaking. It's about acting. It's one thing to hear the word. And in James, and we went through James, it talks about this. It says that it's don't be a forgetful hearer, but an active doer. Be an active doer of the word. So as God speaks to us, as God conveys or declares his message for us to do, let's do it. So the question for me today is, what is it that God is calling you to do? What has God ordained, orchestrated, and set in your life that he wants you to accomplish via his power, for his glory, and for your good and the good of others? Chew on that a little bit, guys. Chew on that a little bit. And I appreciate you guys for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.